Okay, people, I'm back with another book. This week it's Rosemary and Rue by Shayna McGuire. I think I said that right. Not sure if I did. I'm a surprisingly poor reader for someone who likes to read so much. But don't let that stop you, people. Just make up the words in your head. That's what I do. Okay, this was a Kindle book. You know what? I'm gonna try something fancy. See if I can edit that right. Huh? It's a Kindle book. Now, why did I get this book? A long time ago, years in fact, there was a podcast called Vaginal Fantasy. No. It was four ladies who would cover Harlequins, that is, your romance type novels, your sexy time, right? It's a big market. It's a very large market, but and it was sort of it was their idea too that it was a underserved market, right? Wherein we have a lot of sci-fi websites and things of this nature, and a lot of fantasy, but not a lot of Harlequin coverage, so to speak. So that's what they would try and do. And I was listening to get some sense of how female readers respond to reading, right? Because I was writing my books. I still write my books, but I needed that information, so to speak. It was very helpful. But in amongst this podcast was this book recommendation, and this book seemed all right. Right? I'm not the largest fan of Harlequin books. I've only read a few, right? More if you count Pride and Prejudice and does Hamlet count as one? Not technically, right? I don't think Pride and Prejudice technically counts as one. But I haven't read many. They're not my cup of tea. But I grabbed this one, and that's why we have it. It was also on sale. Let's be honest. Your boy's not buying full price books. It's not something he does. It's not how I roll. Okay, I've done it. I've done it a few times, but it's rare. So before I move on, let's get some sort of a ranking. So to give people an inclination as to maybe they want to go buy it, read it on their own first, and not be spoiled like I'm about to spoil it. This is a 3 out of 5 to me. A very solid, right down the middle of the bowling lane, 3 out of 5. It's not doing anything outstanding, right? It's not something you can really sink your teeth into and read over and over. But it's also not garbage, right? There is a coherent story. It's fun. It's let's say I happily read the book and enjoyed it, but I also haven't been inclined to reread it, and I've neither been inclined to buy any of the sequels, right? So if that sort of tells you where it sits, it's a solid, happy book, but that's about it, right? So it's a 3 out of 5. You'll like it if you like it, if this is your genre. If you've been reading a bunch of history, skip this one. You can skip it. You'll be all right. Another thing I realized when I was reviewing this book, coincidentally, and I had forgotten this, the character has the same name as ye old month, October, right? Just a fun happenstance. Okay, so we start with our main character, one October Daye, spelled with an E at the end, right? Because that's always fun. And this is sort of a trope, I would say, with romance books. And here's who our female lead is. And they always have this kind of a name, Daye, October. I think they call her Toby a lot in the book. They might be called Parker or Bo or Ryan, right? It fits in line with what the character needs to be. sort of a tomboy. Not overtly pretty, but pretty for anyone who looks. And they have to clean up very well, right? So if they end up at a party, boom, va va voom. But they like jeans and sweats, this kind of thing, right? These stories, it's never like a supermodel, right? She's never like 6 feet tall with long legs and gorgeous eyes, right? They're also, in these books, they're never called like Adriana, right? Too sexy. And, as I was thinking about it, as I go over these books, it's not, right? Because on the surface, you might say, these readers, these lady readers, are being petty, right? They don't want the head cheerleader, the supermodel. Everything can't go her way. She's already gorgeous, right? But it's not exactly that, I don't think. Because perception is reality, right? It's not how pretty people think such and such a lady is. It's how she views herself. She could be a supermodel, but not think she's anything great. She might think of herself as average. And in that sense, an average or more average type of a character is more relatable to the reader, right? I think that's what we're coming at here. I think we have a character who's now more relatable to more of the readers. I mean, these books sell for a reason, right? So that's what we have. And her name ties with this archetype, right? Of your understated beauty. Intelligent, snarky, quick-witted, usually not a blonde, brunette hair usually. It's the go-to. Never occasionally redheads. They're exotic or something, I don't know. But blondes have too much fun. Marilyn Monroe taught us that. And apparently no one connects with them. So if you're blonde out there and tall and pretty, sucks to be you because you ain't none of these characters. Right? It's always kind of funny. But her name fits that. This October Daye. Toby. They always go this way. It starts with a prologue. Your boy skips prologues. I don't know why. Don't know when I started that. I get an attitude about it, like I'm pretentious, right? Like if the author didn't deem this good enough to be chapter one, I don't want to deal with it either. I just skip it. I'm kind of silly that way, but that's on me. That's a me issue. That doesn't have to be a you issue. So we start in chapter 1, and we're getting a kind of a soft first person. In this, I mean, some first persons are, I took the red pen and I took the lid off, held it in my right hand and wrote in a litigious manner, right? Very, every little thing the person does. And some are more loose and will get general descriptions and then use the first person as movement. I went to the door. I didn't like that. I went here. I don't think it's great. Right? I don't like it in general, first person. I don't like it most of the time because, like this book, they don't commit to the first person. But it doesn't break the book, right? Otherwise, I'd have given it a 2 or a 1. It's just, it's like a lot here. It doesn't help its cause, right? You're not using every bit you can of the landscape, so to speak, to really sell this book in the minds of the readers. You're just getting along to get to other spots. Oh, we also learn in chapter 1, and it has to be 1, that she has the most perfect romance job. All right, if you look at any romances anywhere, I've been watching a lot of K dramas, Korean romances. There's one job you need that's most crucial. Ladies, if you're looking for Prince Charming, if you're looking to bag a rich, handsome, kind CEO of a company, Go be a cashier. It's the go-to, according to romance novels and books and TV. It's the go-to. They always make them cashiers. It it's the perfect job, right? It's hard work, but not too hard. You can show up, but you don't have to show up decked out and glammed up like if you worked like as a hostess at like a fancy restaurant. You got to have combed up hair and this and that, right? Or it's never a go-go dancer, right? Waitress is too much movement. There's not enough interaction time. Cashiers get interaction time. You have to have some competence. You might get, snarky interactions with other clients. And you don't have to be, not gorgeous. So when a rich, handsome guy comes in, you can get some gauge as to his personality by how he treats the poor peasant girl working the cashier register, right? The cash register. Because that's how they sort of see it in the books. You can be overlooked. There'll be a rich guy who comes in and he's like, "Hey, hurry up, give me my stuff, ring me out." He can be very salty because she's just a lowly cashier, right? They love this trope. I love this trope. I've seen like 6 K-dramas with this exact trope. Works every time. Another thing, we're going to mention it at the start, right? And we'll probably not mention it in this job again. Other jobs, you need to go to work, right? It affects your day. Not cashier. Come and go. Basically, you're going to mention it and then never mention it again. And we're okay with that because it's just a cashier's job. And the person I'm leaving high and dry without an employee, he can easily fill the role. It's not the end of the world, right? So like if you make your main character lady a 6-foot tall, blonde, gorgeous doctor, and then she has to run off into this adventure, then in your head you're like, that dirty doctor left a bunch of patients to die. She's horrible, right? Not a problem when you're a cashier. It's the most perfectest job. For the ladies, now, mind you, we never start in these stories with a guy's a cashier. That doesn't work for anybody. Your perfect job is rich CEO. Okay, so if you're a guy, you aim for that. Go for rich CEO. Not that the ladies are money grubbers. It just shows your competence, right? Otherwise, you're incompetent. Go for CEO. It works. Trust me. Handsome, tall CEO. That's what you need, guys. Work on it. Do sit-ups or something. Oh, it's so fun. I love it. But in this first chapter, we get a taste of how we're going to do the world building. And here is what I will say. The book really, really shines in the world building. We keep the snarky attitude, which it works, and we deliver quick tidbits. So it's a constant, I'm like, what is it? Hansel and Gretel. You're constantly picking up a jelly bean till you get to the big candy house, where it's just constant tidbits. And the tidbits we get are words like fae, pixies, changelings, this kind of thing. That's what this setting is. It's the world of your fae. These are werewolves and vampires and goblins and chupacabras, right? Things that go bumpa in the night. They have their whole world, their whole existence, and she interacts in this world. She's one of them, even though she can live as a human. They'll give me things like she'll meet some kind of rabid-looking one that may want to fight her, but she scares it off. We have pixies that are like at war in the aisle of a grocery store over like chips. They're armed with like forks and stuff, clothed in wrappers. But no one in the grocery store knows because they're good at hiding or they're magical. They hide themselves with magic. I love the idea of walking through our normal world and there being just this parallel society of, these creatures that live. It's tremendous. I love it. I absolutely love it. And it's all throughout this book. It's one of the things that kept me reading, to be honest. If it weren't for this, you might have lost patience. But the elements keep showing themselves. And they're fun to read. It fires the mind, right? This is what we want in books. We're tired of looking outside at the woods. We want our minds to wander. Okay, and again, speaking of parallel, how we get there is always kind of interesting. She does it like 4 or 5 times where the Fey world exists. What did she say? On the other side of every mirror. Uh, in the middle of every unpierceable fog, right? So a fog can roll in and you can just walk and be right in a Fey kingdom of elves and goblins and stuff like this, right? Of the Rose Queen, this kind of thing. And some of the kingdoms are more hidden than others, so you can't just walk through a fog. You'd have to walk through a fog, around an oak tree, lick a strawberry, you know, crawl under this bush, say a certain phrase, and the gates open up for you. It's very fun. Magic just comes and goes in this story. So Our Lady, our October Daye, is a half. They call them changelings, which I didn't like because I think changeling is a different type of fae in what I've always heard. But what she means is like a half-blood. Anyone who's not pure-blooded fae is a changeling, sort of like a half-breed. Some can be more or less of multiple things. She's half human, half. I think they call it Daoni Sidhi. I said that horribly. It's some kind of thing with blue skin that can, mess with blood or something. But her skin's not as blue. She just has sort of alien, sort of too much cheekbone, too pointy of ears, right? It'd stand out if she didn't use magic to cover herself, right? And so I'm like, that's a little convenient. There's a lot of conveniences in the book, but we're not going to let that ruin it, are we? No. Well, you better not. So she's this half and half. Um, we quickly meet Tybalt. Tybalt, that's what I called him. Again, another fun character. It's fun and boring fun. Well, not boring. It's uninspired, I'll say. It's not boring. You just don't remember it. He's king of the local court of cats. And I'm like, keep throwing elements like this at me. I love this crap. Where he can be like a man, a very tall man, and the next second he's a cat. And that all cats can be like this kind of a way. Cats are kind of mysterious as it is, right? And so that they hang out with these kind of fey creatures, these goblins and trolls and stuff. I don't know, that's just fun to me. And Our Lady, again, and it keeps dripping the content at us, which kind of starts to annoy me, right? They say she's a knight in the service of Duke Sylvester Torquil. They never really say what he is. If they did, I don't remember. But they do this the whole book, right? Where on the one hand, she's like a private eye kind of character. Like she's trying to get out of the life, but people keep looking for her and she gets pulled back in. She's trying to be out of the life, but she knows a lot. She's like a private eye. She helps people out, or used to. And we constantly learn things that she already knows, and that those things end up instantly useful to her, right? Like, I better take this red pen. And then like 5 minutes later, you need a red pen to enter. I'm like, haha, I have said red pen, right? That kind of annoys me, the convenience. But what's more annoying is the back lore, right? Normally, and I think it was intended sort of just as easy world building. Like Gandalf knows a bunch of stuff, but it doesn't detract. This one you start to be like, can we stop this book and take me back to when she was young and just let me ride this story all the way to where I am? A lot of times I get that sense where that'd be funner, right? Because I'm constantly, it starts to be an annoyance that this character knows more than I know. And not that they know more, but I'm like, that sounds like an interesting story. My desire is being pulled out of the story that I'm on, right? And you never really want that to happen. You want to be telling the story that they want to read at the same time. So if stuff's too interesting tangentially, you're pulled off track and it's harder to recommit to the story. And so we have a lot of rules. Fae, what they do, the rules about them. If you don't know a lot about it, it's fine. They cover it well enough. Like I didn't know what a Dione Sidhi is, right? I think if you knew, if you Googled them, it'd make the book more enjoyable. But not knowing doesn't ruin the book. But stop playing with that. If you not knowing doesn't ruin the book. So just keep that in mind if you're interested. But her friend's calling her a lot on the answering machine, and she's desperate for her help. She's trying not to get in. Then the last message, it traps her, right? It's a full-on oath. I'm binding you to some oath to do such and such. She uses magic through the answering machine to bind her. The important thing is oaths and promises and keeping your word are in the Fey world more than just an oath, right? All our politicians swear an oath and then promptly start lying like crazy. Most of them, okay? That excludes the politician you like. Don't start yelling at me. But for Fae, it's almost like magic binds them to these oaths, right? This is like not a trope, but a characteristic of Fae, right? And so this is it was unnecessary, right? It wasn't needed in this book. She would have, I assume, wanted to avenge her friend anyway. But I think we used it to just add more back end story for the Fae, right? Because it is intended to drive, right? Well, it would have been better if the person hadn't been their friend, right? That it's your friend, you're like, bro, I would have helped my friend anyway. But if it's some stranger with magic powers binding you, you're like, I'm just getting pulled along here. And it really is like that. Like, I'm gonna go eat. Hold on. The curse, the oath is like, is that eating in your mind to help you solve this case, this murder? Because if not, I'm gonna like twist your insides up, make you feel horribly uncomfortable, to the point of dying. If you just ignore it, it'll just kill you, right? So that element is very cool. We go to the crime. Another element they use a lot is iron, right? Where iron just melts Fae. They just don't like it. It burns them worse than like sunlight to vampires, right? So that this her friend was killed with iron is just this added horribleness, so to speak. Again, using iron would have driven hard enough, but it's not what the author did. She gets to the crime scene, and we another cool element. They call them the night haunts. They don't expand. I'm sure there's a certain type of Fae that does this, but they'll come when a Fae dies because most Fae live too long, or if they're purebloods, they don't die at all, and so the body won't decay, right? So they swipe the body and replace it with one of their toys that looks exactly like the real body and functions accordingly. It'll bloat and rot and decay like a real body. So when human detectives show up, they think that's the body, everything's fine. And then these night hawks haunts, take the real body away and eat it. And I was like, ew. But that's another element of Fae, right? They all feed differently. And from their perspective, they're not prejudiced to this. Some need to eat fish, some need to eat cats, some eat other Fae, some are bad, some are good. I like the complexity of their society. But you're like, ugh. So she tastes the blood and she gets her power, her Fae thing is she can like read blood memories, right? And if she were stronger, she'd do it better, but she's not as strong because she's half. So she can only do it as good as she can. And in that, this is where she sees that people horribly kill their friend. And this is a big situation. And so we have like a three-pronged mystery here. Who killed her friend, right? Murder, most foul. We have the October Daye mystery. Why did she leave? What's this issue she has with the community? And then the world building mystery. Who are these Fae? What is this duchessy? What are these fiefdoms? How do they survive? What's their culture? Right? Three important things that the reader is interested in. And the author does bounce between these very well. But like I said earlier, I ended up wanting to know more about the Fae. To be honest, I could have just left a lot of this to go. If I had known there was like this prequel that just gives me all this backstory, I would have taken it. But there's not. And it kind of bothers me because they say her friend Evening, they call her, or Evelyn, was a pureblood that has been alive for like 10,000 years or whatever when humankind was just starting. Whatever millions of years ago. And I'm like, if you live that long, would you go down that easy, right? You don't have any armed guards. You don't have friends you've made, loyalties, people you could call on. You just have this one cranky private eye that you need for help. That didn't seem right. It didn't fit, and I don't like it. Like I said, it'd have been better if this wasn't. Just make it like a warlock or a mage or something, just good in magic, and he just binds you to this oath, and he gets got, right? Then you're just like, makes sense. He was doing stuff he shouldn't have, and she's bound to this oath, and then all these other problems drag themselves out too. But the author felt the need to go this route, and what can we do? Right? So a lot of the action is I think like like the Tom Clancy's books. They're funner to read than to be told about. So I'm not going to go through every little bit. But in the course of our investigation, she ends up with a hope chest. It's just a wooden chest that you know heals her of some of her wounds and things like this. It's just inspiring, enchanting. They describe it as like Pandora's box was a hope's chest, right? So it's highly magical and highly dangerous. And she has one, even though they all thought they were fake. And so she takes it to our friend, the cat, for safekeeping. And again, this is another example of the conveniences. We just meet this character, they don't get along, and now he's there to help her. And I need such and such help with this car, and here's the guy who I know is a mechanic, right? These things constantly end up happening, which is why I sort of said I want her backstory, right? So that I would have the sense of why all these things are happening. I mean, there's got to be interactions that helped all of these come to be, and that sounds like a good book. All right. So she talks big, our October Daye. I'm skipping even some of my notes because I'm already covered them. She talks a big game, right? But she always ends up like there's a section here where she just ends up jacked up. An assassin's in her car. She can't see his face. He's like magically masking himself. And I will, to her credit, she didn't go down easy. She don't go, softly into that good night. She gasses it and nearly crashes the car. Gets out. She gets shot. And then barely makes it to safety. Gets patched up. Then as she's being led out, she gets attacked by the same guy again. Messes up her stitches, or magical stitches. Gets shot again. Then someone else helps her. Then they go home. Then she wakes up and gets attacked again. And I'm like, at some point, you're like, bro, Do you have a weapon or something? Do you have some kind of a sword? I know it said you were a knight. Can you fight? Are you aware that their world's dangerous? Like, one, yeah, two, I can understand. But they go in like fourth and fifth. She loses like 9 fights by the end of this book. She's not competent in combat. So I'm like, why is this your chosen profession? And if it is, you got to be smarter about it, right? I mean, if you're going to get got this hard every case, you're not going to make it. You're going to be losing too many pieces. What the crap? And even like the friends she comes to, they're like, I'm going to send these people to keep you safe. And they're not any better at fighting than she is. One of them gets shot. One of them gets shot in the head, very sad. And then later, another one who she was making friends with gets shot like 3 times and dies. So I'm like, good God. Our hero is not good at saving people, even though she acts really tough. Like a big game. She's talking a big game. Can't do nothing. I don't see her weaving any magic. She got no anti-bullet charms or amulets. I'm like, she's very unprepared. The best she gets is like she grabs mushrooms. Who cares about mushrooms, bro? Find a talisman. Go to the Vatican. You know, get some talismans or something. Some protection shaman. You need paper, paper charms and crap. Get busy, bro. She was born in like the 50s or something. Come on, bro. Again, there's a cool element. I'm out of order a little bit, but there's a cool element where it talks about in her past someone named Simon. I don't know who this is. They never tell me. Captured her and turned her into a fish for 14 years. A koi fish. She just lived in a koi pond. And I'm like, the Fae elements are so strong in this. Because, for Fae, being turned into a fish for 14 years ain't that big a deal. Even the changelings are going to live like, I don't know, like 100 years or some mess. Not the thousands the other ones have, but a long time. So 14 years as a fish, not that big a deal. But I'm like, that's a cool element. I would like more of those instead of my girl getting shot every 5 minutes. Where's your... Like, if you were turned into a fish for 14 years, as an author, you can use that to, like, she learns the underway ways, right? She talks to mermaids, and she's exploring Atlantis, because, you're a fish anyway, right? Might as well scooch on. And it's not like you have to stay in the koi pond. You're a fae. You just take one of those weird gates, the hidden gates, through the hidden fae world. Learn some stuff, right? You gotta come more prepared. She's just like tough, knows fae culture, and nothing else. She's getting jacked every 5 minutes. It's kind of annoying. Every time, every fight, she ends up passed out. Someone has to help her. Another thing is she has interesting personal, and this is sort of where the romance part comes in. It's not the heaviest in this book as in other books. Certainly not compared to most Harlequins, right? The sexy time. But the romance comes in at odd times. She has crazed interactions, right? Where she has a guy, a former, lover, that she left for another guy, but then she turned into a fish. So then the other guy married someone else, but then he still likes her, and it's political. This kind of convolution, right? It's fun enough on its own, but they come in, they bubble up at odd times. In between a fight, she may start kissing this guy. She may want to kiss another guy, but doesn't. And it's not odd for her or the situation, right? Because we have in the world time enough. What it's odd for is the reader, because we're going at a certain pace, and then we jar that pace with this odd romance that doesn't fit. Or like, I don't care about the kissing when somebody could get shot, right? You put that when she's hanging out in Fae, the open court of Fae royalty, right? Put some of that in. Put it in while we're at a library. Put it in while we're waiting for something or something, but don't put it in the middle of being shot at. It's odd. Huh? Then we meet a Louis Dang? Luading? I don't know how to say this. She's some kind of ancient fae, right? Where almost even the other purebloods might not know she's real. She's so old. Back when humanity was just, a cool happenstance over there. She's hanging out with the moon and crap. And she's this kind of like coke drinking, chippy old lady looking thing, right? But super powerful. And this is another trope that kind of starts to annoy me. For the same reason I'm annoyed by our main character, October Daye. I want this character's whole story, right? I don't like. It's not that she knows. I mean, again, she's ancient, so she has deep knowledge. We're asking her questions. Of course, she's not going to give you all the answers. That'd be too easy. The book would end. But she has all deep knowledge and power, and she's cranky and weird. It's not that she has the knowledge. It's that I'm distracted from the course that I'm on. I'm highly interested in what it's like for her. How she bounced around, what she did when humanity was young, how she dealt with the elves, how she dealt with Fey wars against humanity, how she deals with the modern world, the coming of the modern world. Put this lady in the Renaissance, right? The Fey in the Renaissance, the Fey in the court of Louis XIV, the Sun King, right? There's so much potential in this one character, and it instantly distracts you. It instantly distracts you from the story that you're on because I'm like, October Daye isn't more interesting than this old lady. I'm highly interested in that. And it's not just Harlequins that do this. Other fantasies do this as well. Always bugs me. So then we get to the end. I keep looking over here because this time I keep track on my phone of the time. Oh, I'm getting smart, aren't I? Smart YouTuber. We come to the end of our book, and by the end, it's not too hard to see. If you're big time into mystery books, you probably saw it coming a mile away. I get sucked into any book I read, so I sort of didn't see it coming. But even for me, it wasn't that big of a shock. We didn't build the mystery too well. It is her former lover, who she didn't sort of like but likes, is the killer, right? He's the mastermind behind all this. He's tried to have her killed 2 or 3 times. He killed her friend. And at this point, it's the line from The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. If you're gonna shoot, shoot. Don't talk. She has him dead to rights. She knows it's him. She's under a curse that means she has to kill him or deal justice out in some way. And I'm sitting there going, bro, shoot him. Shoot him. What does she do? Yaps. She's talking. She's talking it out. It all goes south. It's why the last the one of the ones she was supposedly trying to help ends up shot trying to help her. Then one of the other ones she was trying to help has to save her life. She doesn't even pull the trigger in the end. I'm like, very weak. You lost every fight you were in. I'm unhappy, right? And that's sort of where it ends. She ends up recovering, and it all kind of sits weird for me, right? And I was trying to think why. And as I was looking back at the book, it struck me. The character feels like it should have been a male character. And it's kind of weird to say that, but if you read this book and have that in your head, I think you'll see what I mean. And it's not that she's brash, it's not the bravado, it's not that she's tough. It's not even that she messes up here or there. It's something in the way she disregards her friends. It's the way she does it. Not that she does it. It's the way she does it. Feels masculine to me. Like if the whole story had been rewritten and he's a man instead of a woman, October, I think it would have fit better. I think I would have felt better about it. It felt odd, and I think that was why. Because by the end, everyone sort of likes her. All these things she had in her head weren't accurate. But the way it's secluded, the way she goes off and is pouty kind of. I don't know, something about it just What did I write here about it? It's not blatant, right? It's not blatant, but it just has this feel to it. That if I closed my eyes and thought of the whole book with a male character, I think every interaction feels more realistic. That realism would have lent itself to the book and propped up all of the fantastical elements, right? But we sort of end there with everything sort of peaceful, with a few lingering mysteries, but overall the arc is the interest that should get you in the next book. And in this version that I have, in this version, I don't know if it's like this for all the books, it said it was like the 10th anniversary of it. We give a good chunk of what's left. I think reading wise, it said 80% done. So the rest is like the first chapter or two of the next book, which I didn't read. I didn't bother to read. So the ending is sort of truncated. Everything sort of works out, except all your, you lost like 5 friends. I mean, except for that, even the end would have worked better if it wasn't her friend, right? We could have then introduced these friends later on. Could have got into the habit of helping lost souls. These Fey children with issues. It could have worked a lot better. Okay, ad time. Y'all's most favorite time. I won't let it go too long. This is kind of a wild week. I think I've been playing a lot of. Don't tell anyone. I've been playing a lot of Overwatch too, because it came out. And I've been watching a lot of sports. Kind of cut into my reading time. Again, a me problem, not y'all's problem. I'm just keeping you up to date on the inner workings here, right? So, I'm not going to let it interfere. I will be reading these books on time, or I better, right? But again, I didn't get more of these. If you like this series, I guess that's fine. It's like I said, it's a solid 3. It reminds me of a lot of a show called, I don't know if you've heard of it, Lost Girl. Look up a sci-fi. It was on Sci-Fi here. I think it was something else in Canada. Look up a show called Lost Girl, starring Anna Silk. If you like this book, you you will love that show, right? And vice versa. If you love that show, I think you'll love this book. So a little recommendation for you. And thank you all for listening to me babble. Have a good one.